The world unfolds differently for each of us. Why? Where do the rules come from? Within each of us, there is a unique philosophy shaping our thoughts, beliefs, feelings, worldviews, and actions. This is Inner Dialogues with Ecem, an introspective space for curious souls and minds. This is where you get to understand your individual philosophy that writes the script of your life. This is where we unveil the inner wisdom that guides you. Yep, that was your inner sage knocking the door. Let's go and chat with him. Hi, it's Ecem. Welcome back to Inner Dialogues with me. Recently, as a family, we've been going through some changes about our comfort zone patterns and learned customs that have been living with my parents for 27 years and me my whole life. Changes that my parents should have initiated years ago. Changes feel like new beginnings, but like a grief at the same time. While I'm more on the side of new beginnings, my mom is more on the side of grief. The other night, when she was getting emotional talking about the recent dynamics, I smiled at her and felt deep compassion for the process we've been going through as the following words came to my mind. Every beginning includes a grief of a loss. This was something I realized at the end of last year, and this rooted wisdom visited me when it found itself in an arena to practice it. Every beginning includes a grief of a loss. Loss of what though? Loss of our past, I think. The past version of ours before that beginning. The past relationships we have. The places we lived. The feelings we felt. The identity we constructed for ourselves before things started to change. We may grieve over the parts of ourselves we lose with a new beginning. Living abroad, moving away from your hometown, moving to a different country, a different city, becoming a parent, ending a relationship, going back to being single, losing someone you loved. Whatever feels like new beginnings can have parts that make us feel sad and grief. This doesn't take away the beauty and excitement of welcoming new chapters. One doesn't negate the other. We can feel sad when we make the decision to start something new. Every beginning involves the ending of a previous cycle. And what we may feel sad over is the very chapter that has closed down to give birth for a new one. The current changes we've been trying to implement in our family dynamics are about setting up our boundaries as a family of four, making it clear to others that our family time, our family activities, our house have borders, our home have borders that only belong to us. This includes a lot of back and forth. The past patterns and conditionings, aka our comfort zone, feel much more comfortable. Allowing those things to take over feels even safer. But not right anymore, not peaceful to each family member and to our whole family. There's a beautiful reel by J.P. Copeland. I'm definitely going to repost it on my stories. There he says, peace can feel like loss, and that's okay. In our cases, peace does feel like a loss in this moment. It feels like the loss of time and shared moments, like dinners and breakfasts with our close relatives. It feels like a loss of connection with them. But it also does feel like peace. Peace within our family of four, peace within our minds, peace within our family dynamics, peace within the expressions of our thoughts and dreams, peace within knowing the boundaries we have as a family. After big transformations and the breaking of long-held patterns, we may feel lost in not knowing what we are going to do from here, lost in who we are and how we are going to define ourselves, what we are going to define ourselves with. We become attached to experiences and circumstances we live in so much so that we don't realize that we defined ourselves with. When we introduce ourselves, we use sentences like, I live in Mexico, I'm a dancer, I have 3 kids, I love reading books. We define ourselves by where we were born, where we live, what we do as a job, our hobbies, the number of kids we have, the schools we graduate from, and our marital status, and many, many more things and labels. Hello, I'm Ecem. I'm a philosophy coach. I was born and raised in Istanbul. I live in Istanbul with my family. I was graduated from Bosch University. I did my Erasmus year at Copenhagen University. I studied coaching afterwards. I have a podcast. I recently started dancing again. I've been practicing yoga for over 7 years now. I'm a big book nerd. This is how I can introduce myself, right? What about the following? Hello, I'm Ecem. I have a big passion for holding deep intellectual conversations. My natural way of functioning is contemplation. I've always loved conversations that made me reflect on myself and the way I live. I found inspiration in those moments. I love searching for meaning. I love contemplating meaning. I follow my intuition's call. I live with this question in my heart. What would if intuitive, heart-driven, deep thinkers come together, whose nature is to contemplate on things naturally and spend hours in regular moments talking and speaking as their hearts lead? How big realizations would it lead to? What kind of world-altering intentional actions would it lead and inspire to? With this in my heart and soul, I've been creating a space for those people with coaching and podcast. I've always felt like if I were to listen too closely, I'd be able to hear all the answers for what I should do next, where I should go, and which path I should choose. My medium to listen myself closely and see myself clearly has become yoga, philosophy, and spirituality. How does this sound? It's lengthy, but we are complex beings. We are not the moms. We are not just the one who lives in that city. We are not just coaches, teachers, leaders, writers, doctors. We are more than those labels. Each one of us is a story. What story do we want to tell about ourselves? When you say, I was born there, I live there, I do this, I have that, which story do we want to tell? What is the meaning of that thing that you define yourself with within your story? Yoga is my medium to get in touch with myself, my spirituality, my silent heart, my wise inner world. But for someone, it can be something else. If both of us say, I practice yoga, are we saying the same thing? When we define ourselves with our core true essence, with the story we have within, we cannot get stuck in labels, I think. I go after deep conversations. I contemplate small and big things. I love searching for meaning in everything. I love reflecting on myself through these contemplations. I love holding deep conversations with people who dare to get vulnerable and go beyond the right or wrong. Love the simple action of holding a deep conversation where one is reflected to another. With this story, I do coaching. I'm a coach with this story. And if one day I'll stop being a coach, that's okay. As long as I have a story to hold on to, as long as I feel the back of the labels I put onto myself. Labels without stories and personal aspirations behind them are one reason I think we experience grief and loss when it is time to let go of those labels. If we never discovered what we truly wanted to do with that label, saying, this is what I do, this is who I am, we might never thought about what we are actually capable of doing if we were to drop that label. Sometimes life pushes us to release these labels, and sometimes we realize our stuckness and we want to let go of them. I had a client, now she's a dear friend to me. She used to live in Mexico as a dentist with her own clinic. Not our, it was her. It was hers. She used to live in Mexico as a dentist with her own clinic as a single woman. When she met her husband, they moved to the States where she wasn't eligible to continue her profession. Then she became a mom. Big transition, right? Change of country, change of marital status, change of profession, change of parental status. What she experienced after a while was an identity loss. She almost lost all the parts she defined herself with. I told to her in one of our sessions, you are grieving over losing your previous life and the person you were. And she said, it's true. I do experience a loss and grief deeply. When we started working together, one of my very first questions in our first call was, who are you? She stood silent for a moment, and at the end she said, I don't know. She didn't know who she was in her new life, where she was naked from the things she defined herself with. She wasn't a dentist anymore. She wasn't single anymore. She is married now. She's a mom now. She's a coach now. From that point onward, it was always up. Because she accepted her grief and loss, she allowed herself to feel sad over her loss, to feel grief while living in peace with the decisions she made and the current life she is living. When we met, she was studying coaching, and now she's a wonderful coach with so much depth and introspection she has. You know what she told me about the current version of herself? She said, I had to lose that part of me back in Mexico to find this version of myself. She was a dentist and she loved what she did, but she also remembers the silent feeling inside of her that tells her that something is not right. Now she's on the path of doing amazing stuff with her story this time, not with another label, whether it is a coach or a dentist. I have so much respect for people who commit to take steps, to commit small or big transformations, because it is not easy. And you know, if you have listened to previous episodes, I don't like preaching pain, and I don't preach pain to myself and to no one. But I'm accepting that big transformations are indeed difficult. When we hear the footsteps of an approaching decision we should make, we may start to feel confused about whether we should continue what we are doing and how we are living, or commit to being a bit uncomfortable and a bit sad over letting go while finding peace, while experiencing the freshness of novelty. Staying in the known is appealing. Sliding toward the unknown is a bit discomforting. But there's so much growth and peace in sitting with discomfort. When I moved to Copenhagen for my Erasmus year, the first month was so hard. I was in this beautiful city, surrounded by people, beautiful people. I was being supported. I was taking wonderful philosophy classes from lovely professors. I was cycling everywhere. I was living in a beautiful neighborhood. I was eating delicious pastries. But I was homesick. My mind was with my family. I was experiencing the loss of a familiar place, of my room, of our dinner conversations, of my friends, of my routines. Routines are very, very, very mundane stuff. but they root us down in the most powerful ways we cannot imagine. It creates a sense of familiarity and a shared story with that space and time. I was in extreme discomfort, but I was aligned at the same time with the new city I was living in and the new habits and routines that were being formed slowly. I was peaceful, but I was grieving at the same time. This episode has been like talking to myself. Not that it is different to what I do in every episode. No, but in the sense that I brought upon something very fresh and raw and personal, and I needed to navigate myself, my loss, my peace, and all the feelings that this new phase and transition is causing within me. I feel much lighter, clearer, and confident in going forward in this transition after talking out my mind in this episode and sharing my heart vulnerably and in a very raw way. I made myself some promises. I made some commitments to myself. They feel exciting, but at the same time, they're uncomfortable, occasionally and sad, and sometimes like I'm losing something. It's okay though. I'm thinking of this as a new chapter in a book. To start the next chapter, we need to finish the one before. And it might be the fact that it was a great chapter. So we will reminisce about it. We will experience the loss of it, but we'll be also turning the page to welcome the new chapter. If you're going through times where make a decision, where you turn the page and start the reading or writing the first couple of lines there, that's great. I'm rooting for you. I really do. If a part of your mind or heart is still in the previous chapter, please remember that is okay. It is okay. We can still move on and continue the journey even if each step includes excitement and grief of loss at the same time. If we've gotten deeper, let's go a bit more vulnerable here. In my last relationship, I was the one who wanted to break up for a long time. I was wandering around the edge of breakup, but I didn't have the guts to end it. I was blaming my partner that he was the one who didn't let us go. If I were committed, I would end it way sooner, but I wasn't committed to how I felt with that stuckness and unhappiness lurking inside of me. When I made the decision to break up, we decided together to end it. It was peaceful. It was what I wanted. Well, that lasted for a while. After a while, I was so deeply searching back for what we had. When the time got in between the baggage of those problems we had in that relationship, I started to want to go back so deeply. It created emptiness within me. I wanted to feel loved and seen by someone else again. I reached out to him, but he said no. He said that he made a decision and he's going to stand up for it. I was in pain. I was experiencing the pain of a breakup months later. I made a hard decision and it did feel peaceful at that time, but now I was grieving over that loss. I was sad because of letting go. Although I let go of something that wasn't doing good for me anymore and was getting unhealthier for me, I was sad about it because it was a part of me. New beginnings involve a grief of loss. Sometimes during the day I miss nights when everything is more silent, peaceful, slower, and settled down. And sometimes during those dark nights I miss the daylight, the freshness that it will bring, the tempo and rhythm of it, the magic it creates, the nurturing side of it. I do really experience both. The journey of change and transformation, like the cycle of day and night, can feel uncomfortable at times, and it can fluctuate a lot. We might miss the familiar even as we welcome the new. Discomfort is a sign of growth. The grief of loss is a sign of leaving something behind and moving forward. I'll end here, but before, I want to share that wonderful piece by J.P. Copeland. He said, quote, "Sometimes when I make a hard decision, I may feel sad, and I have to tell myself it is okay to be sad and make the right decision at the same time." And I see it all the time, people saying choose peace, but what does that mean? To me, that means I have to feel the uncomfortability and the sadness of letting go of something that's been with me, even though it might have been unhealthy. And just because the attachment isn't healthy, it does not mean that I'm not going to be sad about it or grieve about it. Because it was a part of me. And there's a season during the letting go where there is an emptiness because what was there isn't there anymore. And it really makes you want to go back to it. End quote. Here's a couple of questions for us to live by when the time to make decisions and embrace new beginnings comes. What chapter am I closing? What story am I starting to write? What story do I want to write about myself moving forward? What are my core values that will guide me through this transformation? Let's give ourselves the acceptance and open-heartedness of grieving the past while holding on to the excitement for the possibilities that lie ahead. You're moving on your journey. You're heading where you want to be. You're making the right decisions, although sometimes you're feeling sad. It is okay. We inhabit every possibility and answer within us. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, said Seneca. I'll leave you with this. As our conversation for today fades away, may you find your echoes of it that resonate within you. Thanks for listening today. This is Inner Dialogues with Ecem, a place where you discover your inner you, a place where you belong. Take care.